There we go.
Now we're recording. Thank you. Thank you so much. Guys, I've had a day, I tell you. Okay, so if you select, say, if you select all of these and you select techniques also, half of your questions are going to be techniques. I don't know why. This box over here, it kind of takes over that box over there. So I try to focus on either techniques or I focus on these over here. So today let's do strategy analysis, requirements analysis, and design definition, which is RAD, and solution evaluation. So this is chapters 6, 7, and 8. We're going to start with what is the knowledge area? What is the purpose that we're trying to accomplish here?
And you have the technique selected.
I'm starting over. 6, 7, and 8. Begin new exam. Okay. And I'm going to double check this to be sure I don't have anybody in the waiting room. Okay. You just didn't like that question, didn't you? So now we have a new question. I see what's happening. Okay. Ed is working on making recommendations to increase value of a solution. So that tells us what knowledge area we're in, right? There is a solution in place. We know we're in chapter 8. He has discovered that different stakeholder groups may have common needs that can be met with a single solution. What recommendation is the best fit for Ed? We're talking about a recommendation. We know there's a solution in place. So what task is this?
Recommendation actions to increase the value.
That's right. That's the only one you make recommendations in, is that task. So if he has stakeholder groups that have common needs that can be met with a single solution, should he suggest to retire the solution, avoid waste, eliminate redundancy, or identify additional capabilities? So let's eliminate some.
So C is the correct answer.
Well,
Yeah,
C is the
eliminate.
correct answer.
By the
Any
way,
questions?
This is the question. We have seen it many times.
None of these are, but I tell you, it really does help you in the final answer,
Yes.
final test. So checking, yes, that is correct.
I'm
We were in the
wondering
right.
if Watermark should have this feature. Those questions that we mastered, they should not repeat it again. I mean, if we answer it incorrectly, it is good to be repeated.
I agree with you.
That can be a good feature.
That would be a good feature if you were on a solo thing, but I use this same thing for multiple classes. So that would mess it up.
Yeah.
But as a business analyst, that would be an interesting idea. We should talk about that later. Okay. Tamara works on projects using an adaptive approach and writes user stories with the help of delivery team to help the delivery team understand the requirements. Recently, she was asked to work on a project using a more predictive approach. A colleague told her she no longer would be writing user stories since they're not used on more predictive approach projects. So adaptive, predictive, she was using Agile. Now this is more waterfall. Tamara, however, thought the user stories would be helpful in which of the following tasks. So really, this is a question about what is the value of user stories. It has nothing to do with all that other stuff. That other stuff is noise. So which of the following tasks? Performing gap analysis, specifying and modeling your requirements, analyzing current state, or analyzing performance measures? Can we eliminate any?
A.
So we will not be using user stories to perform gap analysis. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This should also actually be a slam dunk.
Okay. So what are user stories good for?
Specifying and modeling
Yeah,
requirements.
specified modeling requirements.
B.
Good. User stories provide a brief statement about what people do or need to do when using the solution. Okay, next question on the same scenario. Specifically, what would user stories help the team thoroughly define and understand? Would it be prioritize functional requirements, non-functional requirements, risk assessment, or acceptance criteria? Let's eliminate one.
Risk assessment.
Yeah.
I'm going to eliminate risk assessment.
Mm-hmm.
So what would it help them thoroughly define and understand?
Acceptance criteria?
Yeah, D might be an answer.
Okay. So we don't like this one because it's very specific and it eliminates all other
Prioritize.
kinds. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is functional requirement. What happens to non-functional requirements? And this one's only non-functional requirements, and it's not limited. So acceptance criteria is what we're going to choose. User
Yep.
stories term to identify specific acceptance criteria to help the team to understand what the solution needs to provide in order to deliver value for the stakeholders. Very good. The lead business analyst has engaged you to outline the design possibilities that would satisfy a set of requirements in the project. So let's stop right there. What task is this? You're going to outline the design
Define
possibilities
design.
to satisfy requirements.
Define design options.
Solutions.
I think you're probably right.
DDO.
Maybe define future state.
Yeah.
We'll find out. Which set of activities would the lead business analyst involved in? So is she defining solution approach, identifying improvement opportunities and requirements allocation? Is she determining expected benefits, determining expected costs, determining value, assess design options? Is she analyzing current state, defining future state, assessing risk, defining change strategy, or is she defining solution approaches, identifying improvement opportunities, requirements allocation, and describing design options? I think it's asking us for the tasks in a knowledge area that's specific for this. What do you think?
Those match up to the elements in the defined design options. Letter D, as in Delta. So if that's what we think the task is, that would be correct.
Okay. All right. You said D, Michelle?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody?
Somebody's the fastest Babok in the West.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think D sounds good.
Okay. Now, so I've got several people looking a little puzzled and several people looking very sure. So let's talk about why we're sure about this so the puzzled people can get on board. To outline design possibilities to satisfy a set of requirements.
But like Michelle said, if we're in the if we're looking at it as the defined design options, then
Describing
yes, those
design
are,
options.
yeah.
Those would be the elements.
How is A different than D?
Describing
Yeah.
design option parts.
Yeah.
This
So
one has this one.
that's one thing that'll
Oh.
trip you up in the
Yeah.
practice questions.
That's true.
So don't be tripped up by A. I'm pretty sure that they do not ask any questions about lists like this on the test, or it's not common. So they exercise your knowledge on the actual exam, but not in this way.
This is to get you to understand it well enough so whenever you get to the test, you're going to know it.
Right.
So these are actually the elements in defined design options, and describing design options is the last
The
one.
one. Yeah.
So, Michelle, did you know that these were the elements?
Yeah, that's like if it matched what the task we thought it was, which was design define options, then those would be the elements to that task.
That's
Or
perfect.
she has Thea's spreadsheet.
I
Yeah.
actually recreated my own so I can remember.
Did you really? Good
Yeah.
job. Good job. Okay. Fastest Babok in the West. Does anyone have any questions about this one? why we chose that task? Okay,
Not a question about that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I joined a little bit late,
it's
so I
okay.
can reset my brain. What chapter are we doing today, please?
We are doing chapters 6, 7, and 8 all together.
Ah, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you joined.
We decided if we can master the 3 hardest ones, the other ones we can just add for fun.
Yep.
But we want to be sure we've got these mastered.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. I
Yeah.
should have told y'all that whenever you joined. For which of the following tasks or elements would be most appropriate to generate alternative approaches during strategy analysis? So we're in strategy analysis knowledge area. And we want to generate alternative approaches. So that would be which task?
C sounds good.
Determine implementation approach.
The
I think
definition for
define
this
change strategy.
define change strategy. The definition for define change strategy is develop and assess alternative approaches to the change and then select the recommended approach. Those purposes of the task are key for me. I have to have them. Sometimes it's like, well, of course that's what we're doing. I can't remember the name of the task to save my life, but I know that's what I'm doing.
Go back, please. So that throws me off a little bit because when I heard that question, when I read it, what leapt to my mind first was different possible solutions, and not necessarily once the solution is done how you're going to change over. So I need to think about this chapter more in its context.
Okay. I think this is really about, I mean, you're going to look at it yourself, I know, but I think this is really about, we know where we are, we know where we need to get to. So what are the methods we can use? You know, we can swim, we can build a bridge, we can build a boat.
That's the other weird thing about the BABA. It's not really in order so much as the way I think about things in my framework. So here in 7 and even more in 8, you're talking about solutions and how you're gonna do it. But here in 6, which is before those, you're talking about how you're gonna get from here to there. So
Right.
you're doing things kind of out of order. And that always kind of annoyed me about the BABA.
There's a few things that annoy you about the BABOK.
It's not, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying that the people that did it are anything other than terrific. I'm just saying that it could be maybe ordered a bit differently.
We have talked many times about we could make it better. Give us a chance. Let us get in there and do it, but that's not going to happen. Okay, in order to confidently analyze the current state of an enterprise, what must a BA utilize as input? So what task are we analyzing current state? Oh, wait, that's the name of the task, isn't it?
Yeah.
Input to analyze current state is it interviews and workshop transcripts, unconfirmed elicitation results, confirmed elicitation results, or elicitation activity plan? It's this and something else, but which one of these is it?
C maybe, confirmed elicitation results.
C?
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah, I will
Okay.
say C.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with C as
C
well.
is in Charlie, and Charlie is right. The BA will need confidence in the information. So the elicitation results have to be confirmed before they can be used for this. Very good. Rhonda is a BA reviewing the issues that surfaced on a similar project to the one she's currently assigned to that was closed 2 years ago. What would be the value in reviewing past issues from similar projects? So what task is she in if she's looking at past issues on similar projects?
It can be about risk. And she's
So
doing a
you think she's in
review.
assess risks?
Not necessarily. I mean, one of the possibility, I mean, if you're looking at the historical data, you
Mhm.
might be assessing risk.
Maybe.
Current
Okay.
state.
Well, let's
Maybe
move on and we'll see
solution
which one it
evaluation.
says. Okay. All right. So possible answers. Reviewing past issues will help Rhonda understand which stakeholder groups were impacted and so will assist in stakeholder identification. Could help establish the amount of money needed for the contingency reserves. Could help to identify the fix so the team will have to recreate the wheel, or could help identify risk for the current project.
D.
I would say D.
It seems
Yeah.
if it identifies it as a similar project, it could have similar risks, right?
Mhm.
Manifested risks are issues because we know that they will happen if they're similar. Typically, using the lessons learned technique to
Lessons learned.
proactively managing risks to prevent issues costs less and delivers more value. I'm sure we've said this in the past, but I'm going to say it one time. If you know it can happen, it's no longer a risk. It is now an issue. So you take it from your risk log and you put it in your issue log because you treat them differently. Jamie is working on a mobile banking initiative to allow customers to perform all deposits and withdrawal functions using a mobile phone. He is familiarizing himself with the organization's structure in order to better understand the current state environment. So he's understanding current state. So we know that's the task we're in. What will reviewing the organization's structure tell him? It will help him calculate the number of communication channels in the organization as input into his communication strategy. It will tell him how many audiences he has to consider when scheduling requirements workshops. It will give him insight into the capabilities of the organization, or it will reflect the formal relationships between people working in the enterprise.
Say D.
E. Delta.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the
D.
organization, dealing with relationships.
Huh? This is
Mhm.
the definition of organizational structure in the BABOK. He's familiarizing himself with the organizational structure, and it will reflect formal relationships between people working in the enterprise. What does it not tell us that we need to know?
Informal relationships.
Informal. Oh, Javon is waiting in the waiting room. There. Let's let him in. Okay. We got to know informal relationships. That's the trickier part. And formal relationships on the org structures are notoriously out of date. So you got to go figure it out yourself anyway. Second question, why is reviewing the organization structure so important to a change initiative? The reporting structure may aid or limit a potential change. It will assist the BA in recommendation of a sponsor for the change initiative, so the stakeholders aren't overlooked in the elicitation process, or so the political impacts of transitioning to the future state are thoroughly understood. Let's eliminate one of these questions, one of these answers.
Oh,
Which one is
last
just,
one? D.
you think we
Delta.
should eliminate
Yeah.
that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Political
Eliminate B.
impacts are not
Eliminate.
mentioned in the book.
Okay. We don't get to recommend the sponsor, do we? That's
No.
not our role. Okay, so what is the correct answer?
A.
I will say C, like Cassie, maybe.
He's like Kelsey.
No?
Okay,
No.
A. Yeah.
so
A like Apple.
A like Apple. So in addition, communication channels and relationships are heavily influenced by the organization structure. For instance, everyone in this division uses SharePoint. Everyone in this division uses Confluence. These two divisions don't talk to each other because there's some kind of feud that was 30 years ago and they still think they're supposed to not talk to each other. Things like that You got to know, or you're going to walk into the wall. As a BA with some expertise in business process reengineering, you would like to capture the current business process flows for a business unit within the company before the software automation project is undertaken. But the sponsor says there is not enough time. How would you present your reasons? So they don't know what the process flows are before they want to start automation. So we want to present our reasons for wanting to do this. So what is this task they're wanting to do?
Capture the current business process flow for a business.
Yep. Current
Current
state.
state
Current
analysis.
state.
Is it current state analysis,
Yep.
you think? Okay.
I think.
So how would we present our reasons? Why do we need to do this? Process modeling now will most likely save rework in the future. Documenting current processes will help uncover the steps of the current processes that need to change before the software can deliver forecasted value. Business process engineering is a well-established technique for uncovering inefficiencies and advocating change within an organization. Documenting current processes will ensure stakeholder groups have not been overlooked. What do we think is the correct answer?
I like B.
Yeah,
B.
B.
I like
Bravo.
B.
yeah, B for Bravo.
Yep.
Mhm.
Bravo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's check it. Process modeling is the technique utilized throughout strategy analysis. This answer not only answers what process modeling would do, but why it's important at a level the sponsor would find compelling. We're talking about forecasted value. You got to talk money to anybody that's managing a project or above.
You also have to talk about the best ways to do stuff and answer like C, and all these answers are somewhat plausible, but C is saying, hey, it's good, everyone does it this way is never the answer just because.
Yeah, we've always done it that way.
Yeah.
I heard the other day, if it's not broken, don't fix it. It's the same thing as we've always done it that way. I'm like, that's right. An organization has delayed replacing the operating system for employees' computers for years due to the cost associated with the change. Microsoft stopped supporting the operating system, and employee productivity has suffered as repairs are delayed, if they happen at all. A BA recommends that the operating system be retired and replaced with the latest and greatest. Which of the following financial factors carried the most weight in that recommendation? So they've made a recommendation for a replacement. So that's the last task in chapter 7, right? No, it's the last task in chapter 8 because there is a solution in place.
Yep.
Right? Okay, so which of the following financial factors carried the most weight in this? Is it necessity, sunk cost, opportunity cost, or ongoing cost versus initial investment?
Maybe
A.
A.
Delta.
Alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A as in alpha.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't like sunk costs because we're not talking about getting rid of something just because, we not getting rid of something
But-
because we
okay.
spent money on it, right?
Right.
The solution component is obsolete and the next to impossible to maintain. I wonder how much money is costing them by people's waiting and frustration and losing documents. Have y'all ever lost a document? I know, we're not gonna admit it.
1984, it sucked.
Yeah. Microsoft uses us as beta testers and never takes our recommendations. Isn't that not fair? I want to do like a class action lawsuit or something. Rachel is just hired as a BA from an organization where she was instrumental in the identification and deployment of a particular customer relationship management system and has a strong relationship with the vendor. A new organization is facing similar challenges as her previous employer and has asked her to accept her role as a BA on the initiative to address those challenges. She respectfully declines the role. Why is that? So They are asking her to do an evaluation and recommendation. She is saying no. Let's find out why. She's concerned that her previous experience may result in suboptimal recommendation. She signed a non-compete agreement with her previous employer. She is concerned that this may represent a conflict of interest, or she would like to work on something new to assist in career development. According to the Babok, this is an actual scenario that they have a recommendation on our behavior based upon this situation. Which one do they say is correct?
A.
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 I
Alpha.
love it that y'all know this. Bias of the author in a business case is a stated limitation of that tool. You know, we've investigated over here. It's hard to like wipe the slate blank and do it again on a whole different scenario because you have all those details still in your brain.
Yeah.
The specifying model requirements task can result in the output of a requirement or design. What is the difference? A BA can only specify and model a design. When the focus is on understanding the need, the output is referred to as designs. When the focus is on understanding the solution, the output is referred to as requirements. They are used interchangeably. When the focus is on understanding the need, the output is referred to as requirements. When the focus is on the solution, the output is referred to as design. Which one is the right answer, guys?
D as in Delta.
Do.
Yep. D.
David. Awesome. If you didn't catch this, guys, these two are exactly the same, except these words are
Switching.
reversed.
Yep.
You're going to see this a few times in the actual test. Yep. Miriam is a BA who's working to improve the ability of the help desk to resolve more end user issues on the first call. She's documented year-to-date first call resolution rates and is working on identifying the root cause for calls needing escalation to other support groups. During her analysis, she receives first call resolution results for the last 2 reporting periods that shows marked improvement from her baseline year-to-date results. So she's doing an analysis. Her most recent results don't match what she expected. So what's most likely happening? There are most likely more internal and external influences at play that are altering the current state. The help desk obtained new resources that were more knowledgeable and therefore could resolve more calls internally. There's a software update and the help desk was flooded with calls that were easy to resolve, or the original year-to-date results were most likely flawed. What does the Babok say is the right answer?
Babok say A, right answer.
So either the previous data was bad and the current data is correct, or something changed to make the situation, to make the new trend.
So A.
Yeah.
Yeah. A. Alpha.
A.
Let's test it. The current state of an enterprise is rarely static while change is being developed and implemented. As such, the current state can never be baselined. But if you do see a trend and then suddenly it changes, find out what happened. Something happened. Maybe they changed the way they tested, or maybe they changed the way they measured. Something
The
happened.
performance may not be able to have been baseline, but the procedure certainly could be. So
Yes,
that
that's
example given was about performance. That's an interesting question.
it is. What is Miriam's best next step before continuing with root cause analysis? She's going to double check the year-to-date results to ensure data precision and integrity. She's going to report to the sponsor that the problem is improving on its own and that pursuing the initiative isn't cost-effective at this point. She's going to modify root cause analysis activities to the categories of calls that were not resolved on the first call during the last 2 months, focusing only on current, or researching what, if anything, in the environment changed to understand the cause of the marked improvement. So what does the BABOK say she should do first before she goes into root cause analysis?
Delta.
Research.
Research, see what's changed.
Mhm.
Everybody agree?
Yeah, D.
Yeah.
Okay, let's find out. Before determining how to continue, Miriam has to discern what, if anything, changed in the environment and if whatever changed will significantly modify the current state definition or the analysis activities. In other words, you tip me in to measure a buffalo and I'm finding a cow. I don't think this is what you meant, but before I do the thing you wanted me to do the buffalo, I got to be sure that it's the same thing you want me to do the cow. That wasn't the best choice of animal. So sorry. I should have said horse or something. Anyway, Halen is ensuring that the requirements and designs have been defined correctly and provide necessary information for further work that will be performed. What task is Halen doing? Is it maintain requirements, validate requirements, verify requirements, or perform quality assurance? Let's eliminate one, guys. Which one is not a task?
Perform
Alpha.
quality assurance.
A.
Mhm.
This is
A
not
is
a
not.
task.
Yeah.
And
the A.
D is not.
So she's ensuring requirements and designs have been defined correctly and provide necessary information for further work. What is that the definition of? What is that the purpose of?
Verify requirements.
Yep.
Everybody agree?
Yeah.
If you're talking about quality of requirements, it's verify.
Yep.
They've been defined correctly and provide necessary information for further work. Is that quality?
Validate, if you're defining them to
Oh.
make sure they're correct. Well, I don't know. It's validate and
Validate.
verify are very similar.
Yeah, it is about
Yeah, they are
correctness.
similar. And it doesn't say that
Oh.
she's.
Validate, verify is, did you write the requirement correctly? Validate is it the correct requirement?
So is the requirement created correctly, or were the correct requirements created?
So
See, that sentence contains element of both, and I believe it is poorly worded.
So we'll
Well-
go with C.
it's verify.
Very good. So
Why
just
does it say not B?
validate requirements is making sure the requirements
Mhm.
align to the business requirements and support the delivery of needed
Right.
value.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that partially out of the question, so I find that that could be worded better and is goofy.
But which part was making you confused? If it's the same,
Well,
you define
define
correctly.
correctly is one thing. Provide necessary information for further work means that it must be doing the right thing. That's the way I read it. Maybe
Yeah.
y'all don't see it that way, and that's fine.
It's a bit of a trick question, yeah.
I
Mhm.
read the necessary information kind of to be complete. It should be correct and complete.
Well, it's correct and would allow you to do something definable. And maybe the something definable might not be the right thing, but at least it's understandable. So I could see that.
Okay, I tried to drop something in the chat, but it's giving me heck. I hope y'all can see that. It's the
No,
purpose. Nope.
Not yet.
Well,
hit enter or the little arrow on the.
Oh
There
yeah,
you
okay.
go.
No.
okay. I think I got it in there twice. So there's the purpose of each of the two. I realize this question isn't well written, but I want to be sure you do know what the differences are. Verify is it quality? For instance, if you're doing a class diagram, or did you do it correctly? You know, is the acceptance criteria for your user stories complete? Things like that. And then with validate, it's like, Did you write the right requirements to achieve what the goal is? That's the difference between the two. Okay.
For that.
A model is a descriptive and visual way to convey information to a specific audience in order to support analysis, communication, and understanding. What would a business analyst typically model? So when we're making a model, we're specifying model requirements. We would typically model requirements and designs, needs and requirements, requirements and solutions, or needs and solutions.
A, requirements
A.
and design.
Yeah.
Requirements are modeled when the focus is on understanding the need. Designs are
Mhm.
modeled when the focus is on the solution. You are correct again. I'm not surprised. Ginger is a BA working in the investment area of a large financial institution. A new regulation has been passed that will force a change in the related business processes as well as the associated software. You know all about this, don't you, Irina? Yeah, it happens all the time. The business area Ginger has been working with does not understand why Ginger does not simply ask the IT area to make the change in the software since the result is since the change is a result of a mandate. She replies that she needs to understand the business need. Why? So, looks like she's trying to identify current state. Would y'all agree with that?
Yes.
Ginger wants to ensure documentation is robust, aligns to best practices, is auditable to the regulator. So we know there's regulators and we know they do audits. So that's interesting. She needs to understand that what the business is trying to achieve through the changes. Ginger needs the information for the business case, no matter how self-evident it appears. Understanding the business need will ensure the most cost-effective and viable way to fulfill the new regulatory requirement. I'm starting over. Understanding the business need will ensure the most cost-effective and viable way to fulfill the new regulatory requirement will be identified. Which one is the right answer, do you think?
A.
Why
like
not
A?
B?
I heard a B.
Yeah, no, I'm asking why not B?
Okay, let's talk about why we like A most.
Maybe D.
I like Delta.
I was gonna say I like D better as well.
So,
Okay,
like,
I don't love this one
Because-
because it's focusing on documentation.
Right. And
Um,
the other one's on business need.
I don't know. I don't know. Let's just test it. This is a recurring theme throughout strategy analysis. Let's just go through all these. Why is it not this one? We're not worried about a business case. There's no indication a
Right.
business case is going to be written. This describes business objectives versus a need. She wanted to understand the business need here. So
Need.
that
Yep.
explains that one. And this is an invented answer. It
Yes.
looks really good though. Okay, but we got to the correct answer through your reasoning. Thank you so much. First, the stakeholders that will be starting over. For the stakeholders that support analyzing performance metrics, which one can identify risks and provide insight into the data and potential value of a solution? So analyzing performance metrics, what task is that?
The second task.
The second task.
In which knowledge area?
The
Oh,
last-
analyze performance measures,
yeah,
right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's in solution evaluation, analyze performance measures. We're analyzing the metrics. And so which one can provide the risks and provide insights into the data and potential value of the solution? Would it be the sponsor, data analyst, project manager, or domain subject matter expert?
I will say Delta.
I would say Delta.
Let's say C.
Why do you like C most, Stephen?
I know when I think project manager, I think about identifying risk.
Okay. Let's remember this part.
The potential value.
of a solution. domain subject matter expert might be better. So
Mhm.
we exclude sponsor and data analyst for sure. Yeah. I would go for D too.
Let's test it.
Oh, sponsor. Dang.
The sponsor's job in this task includes these things: identifying risks, providing insights into the data and potential value of a solution. In the company I work for, this is not how it works. But in the BABOK company that we're working for this test, this is how it works. You just got to know it.
Yeah, and generally
Yeah.
a sponsor might not be able to put insights to the potential DINA value and solutions and identified risks, unless if the sponsor is meanwhile a subject matter expert, but a sponsor is not necessarily to be a subject matter expert to do all these things.
It
Yeah,
almost
and most of the
doesn't
ones we
matter.
do, it's yeah.
The BABOK says this is
Yeah.
the sponsor's job in this task.
Hmm.
You
Wow.
will remember it because you get it wrong and it's like it hurts your brain. But in this task, this is sponsor's job. Got it?
Couldn't it be both?
Got it.
All right. A business analyst is writing a business case and has quantified the financial benefits of alternative solutions as a means of assessing which solution will be presented as an overall recommendation. A stakeholder has suggested the business analyst to include a value assessment of critical qualitative benefits as well. So they're writing the business case. They're making a recommendation. Which task is this?
It
It
is
could
business case
be.
and it is about change strategy.
Well, I was thinking it was analyze potential value and recommend a solution.
But meanwhile, it is about writing a business case. So I believe it is more about defining change strategy.
Okay, we will find out. Which of the following best represents an example of qualitative benefits? So this question has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
No.
But it's a nice intro, I guess. You know, it's like the beginning notes of a song, but it has nothing to do with the words. Example of qualitative benefits. So there's an L there, not it's not quantitative, it's qualitative, like quality.
Yeah.
So is that improves customer satisfaction, improve return on investment, total cost of ownership, or shorter payback period?
A.
I would
Alpha.
say A.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
alpha.
reason that it's not B, C, or D is it's easy
So
to
we
see.
can
I
measure
can put numbers
this
with
number.
those. This one you can put numbers with, but it's not as easy.
Yep.
This is a qualitative measure that can add significant value to the organization, but it's difficult to quantify.
Yep.
And the next question, how are any financial analysis and value assessments validated? By relating them back to the strategic goals and objectives, by obtaining sponsor approval of the stated value assumptions, by relating them back to the business needs, or by relating them back to the business requirements. We want to see how they're validated.
According
BABOK
to
says how
BABOK,
this-
a sponsor.
Is it, are you saying it's B?
I don't like to say, but it seems that, yeah, B is the correct answer.
I
Okay.
think B and
I
boy.
think-
Maybe
What do you
D.
think,
Delta.
Sandra?
I like alpha. A.
A,
Oh,
B,
Lord.
and B.
Validated. Hmm.
So for
I like A also.
validation,
Aaron, what did you say?
Alpha.
I think
Okay,
because
I
in
got-
objectives, you sometimes write them increase value by 50%, increase ROI by 50% or something like that. So
Right.
that's kind of how I think of
Okay.
objectives.
I got 2 votes for A. Let's test A. Financial analysis and value assessments must align to the strategic goals and objectives of the enterprise. This is how they're validated. If they don't align to this, they're not validated. That's how you measure them, at least.
Oh.
Which of the following is not an improvement opportunity when defining design options? Improve access to information, improve access to stakeholders, increase consistency of behavior, or eliminate redundancy. 3 of these are on the list. 1 of these is not. So let's start at the bottom. Eliminate redundancy. Is that on the list?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, let's say so.
Increase consistency of behavior. Is that on the list?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Okay. Improve access to stakeholders.
Sounds good.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Improve access to information.
Yeah.
Also,
That's
yeah.
Okay.
Also.
Let's see. Okay, so
Improve
increasing
access.
consistency of behavior. The reason that that's a improvement opportunity, let's say you walk into a department and they say, oh, I don't do it like anybody else. We all do it our own way. You got a problem. You can't measure, you can't create consistency. You can't have people take over each other's jobs. So you want consistency of behavior, but improving access to stakeholders is not on that list. But you'll remember it now, right? It's not on the
Yep.
list. Right.
Okay.
Okay. Next. You have interviewed key stakeholders to uncover their business needs. You become aware of many factors that stakeholders think are true, but which have not yet been verified. You decide to document which of the following. What are we going to call these things? We're going to document them. So we are doing our specifying model requirements. In these, are they called requirements? Are they called constraints? Are they called assumptions? Or are they called to-be processes?
Assumption.
Assumption.
I'm
Think
thinking
they're true, but
assumptions.
not verified.
Yeah, I'm thinking
If they are
assumptions.
believed but not verified, we're going to call them assumptions. Even if we verify them and they come out to be true, until we verify them, they're assumptions. Assumptions are factors that are believed to be true but have not been confirmed to be accurate, or they could be true now but may not be true in the future. My favorite assumption is we can't get that done. It's like, how do you know? Sometimes I can get stuff done that for 5 years they thought they couldn't get something done. I can get it done. I just go ask people.
The word
sit in their office.
assumptions has a lot of interesting potential meanings. However, in order to get through the test, figure out what the BABOK wants and pair that. And if you're interested, we'll have a conversation over coffee sometime.
So post CBAP, we can talk about the real world. Right now, we're going to get this down, right?
Yeah.
Laura, a junior BA, has finished detailing the set of requirements using analytical technique. She now wants to elicit, model, and analyze the design, but is wondering what technique she would use for this activity. What would you advise her? So if she wants to do this, is she analyzing future state? What do you think? Define future state? Is that what she's doing?
Yeah.
Or is it a different
Yeah.
task? Okay. So if she wants to use a technique, we need to know what the techniques are in define future state. What would you advise her? The business analyst can only specify model requirements, not designs. It's silly, Laura. Since the developers and testers will be using her requirements, she should collaborate with them to come up with the best techniques to use. Requirements and designs use the same techniques to specify and model. The business analyst does not create designs but reviews them to ensure they align with the requirements. She should therefore package her artifacts, obtain sign-off, and pass them off to the design architect.
Charlie.
I wanted to say boo hiss at the end of that one.
Yeah.
That's
Charlie,
not.
C is the correct option.
Yes.
Yeah. See.
They both use the same techniques. If they work for one side, it's good to be consistent so that your viewers, your stakeholders are seeing consistent designs and techniques between to do the comparison to see the transition. The same techniques are used to elicit, model, and analyze both. When the focus, I've already read that to y'all 15 times. Y'all know it. My favorite technique to use to show current state and future state are swim lane diagrams.
Yep.
And I literally lay them one over the other and show where the differences are. That way it's easy to see who's doing what the changes are. And you can
Which
make it super
diagrams?
meaningful.
Can you say it again?
Swim lane diagrams.
Thea loves swim lane diagrams.
Swim
She
lane
uses
diagrams.
process maps that
If
show the swim lane information in a different way. Use what works for you. The other thing is the way I think about it. Requirements are an abstract version of the future state, and designs are a concrete version of the future state.
so, this is a sample. I just pull off the internet. I have no clue what it says, but it's a swim lane diagram. And the thing I like about it is you can take this down to a role or a department, whichever level of granularity you want. And showing handoffs, handoffs are always a place that errors are potentially made. You can show your decisions. You can show where bottlenecks are. You can take this and I started at a high level of what happens. What happens then? How do you know what to do? What happens if something else is decided? And I get that all documented. And then I go back and say, how long does this take you? How many times do you do this a year? I start putting it in boxes and very often it starts with, we get a new customer and we're at that level of granularity. And then later, if we need to, I take it and do a whole thing on all the steps it takes to get a new customer. Who does what? What if they come in on the internet? What if they come in person? What if they come in on mobile? What if they come in as a referral from another company? All the different scenarios. But what it does, get it down to the level that you need it. And then you say, okay, here's the current state. What does future state need to look like? Where are the pain points? What do we need to change? This is my favorite. And I geek out on doing this. If this could be my entire job, I would love it.
The other way to share the same information is to just have the boxes, and then I put users outside the boxes, or I will draw in irregularly shaped area around the relevant boxes. So it's a swim blob instead of a swim lane. Or I'll just show the various workers involved with each process and label them. And that might work better if you're trying to include a detailed Byzantine process with a lot of steps. And you will also find there are many types of process where every step has its own dedicated personnel. Or if one type of worker does multiple things, you can have a breakout for their process that goes into more detail. So I'm always kind of loosey-goosey and free form and want less restriction on what I do. That's my thing. But if Thea gave me this, I say, that's pretty bitchin', girl. You go.
Okay, two things I want you to know about this. Swim lane diagram, this thing is called a pool, and I just think that's funny. And you use whatever symbols that your audience is going to understand. I mean, there are people that they're like, oh no, you got to use BPMN and you got no, use whatever your audience is going to understand. Try to be consistent. It's real easy to say this is a step, this is a decision, these are the options out of the decision. Just make it as clean as you can. I hate lines that cross. And if it gets to be too complicated, start putting stuff on different pages. But if it gets too big, it gets overwhelming. So you have to be judicial on how you use it.
My
if you ever want me to
website
help you
is,
with one.
and presentations are absolutely lousy. with process diagrams and architecture diagrams, and they don't always look very different, but they always make sense. It's always
Very
about
good.
the information.
All right. Last question of the night. The lead business analyst has assigned you to create a requirements model that represents the characteristics and exchange of information within an enterprise or a solution. Which requirements model category would you use? So it's asking for this thing right here to represent characteristics and exchanges of information within an enterprise or solution. So would this be a data flow diagram, a data modeling, a activity flow, or a data and information?
I think it's a data flow, alpha.
Okay. Is that a model category or is that a type of diagram?
Oh yeah, I have no idea.
Data modeling, probably.
Data modeling.
Yeah, it should be
Yeah.
probably data
Okay.
modeling, yeah.
Let's test this.
Ah,
Ooh.
data and
So,
I
information.
This kind of
definitely didn't think
requirements-
D.
Requirements model category. Look at 7.1.4.1 and it's got the list with the explanations of what each one of the requirement model categories are.
Okay.
Okay, let's submit exam. So we did awesome with strategy analysis. We did not do as great with requirements with RAD or solution evaluation, but we've left them. You know, we haven't talked about them for a while. What do you think about us doing these same 3 chapters next week? And let's try to bring it up. I don't want to lose this one, but
I
we
just
can
want to point out
lose
we
to
only
it.
had 3 questions in solution evaluation, so that one wrong.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Just one, and there's only 3 of them. Do you want to let's do 5, 6, 7, and 8 next week, and let's see how we do?
Yeah. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Good with that? I mean, having 14 in one, that does change the weight, doesn't it? Okay. So we're going to do chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8 next week, and then we will keep adding or subtracting as our performance indicates. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Nope.
So several of you are
Good.
working on your application. Thank you for that. I'm here to help you. If anybody wants to stay on after and let me work with you on your particular application individually, that would be cool. I'll stop the recording for that. We can do it as a group if you don't mind other people seeing.
Yeah, I don't mind other people seeing mine, so.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Let me get to that place. Stop recording.